Hello and welcome to the 1 Million Mile Road Trip, and I'm Tommy, and my wife Meddena, she's doing some stuff here in the RV. I would like to ask you, if you would, to please subscribe to our channel. We have looked, my analytics through YouTube shows me that about 70% of the people that watch our RV channel here, the 1 Million Mile Road Trip, are non-subscribers. And we would really appreciate if you would subscribe and click that little bell by the subscription button, and that'll let you know when we do put out a video, where we put out 3 videos a week currently. And leave us a comment. Even if you come on and decide this is not for you, leave us a comment and just tell us what we could do to make our channel a better channel. We really care about what you think. So, hope you enjoy the video. Thank you. Okay, this is the Maritime Museum in Sturgeon Bay. These are the Great Lakes is just amazing. Ships and stuff they tell about the Great Lakes. The engine room. This is built out like a boat. The officer's office, I guess. Ooh. Diver's compression chamber. This would be, I know you need that to survive, but man, talking about claustrophobic. You would be in there. How many of you would be able to do that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? How many of you would be able to get in there? Well, I guess if you had to save your life, you'd get in there, wouldn't you? My wife would be freaking out. They'd have to sedate her. Recompression chamber. I know somebody that had the bins, had to be put in one of those chambers. They had to fly him out. He got the bins, I think, in Panama City. They had to fly him to Jacksonville on a jet because they had to be placed in a decompression chamber. This is talking to the divers underwater, the old types. Surface supplied air. Said divers began in October 1943 during the winter, set on surface diving. Hey Dana, I want to show you something in here. Or some old nice boats, skiing boats. If you had the bins, they had to put you in that chamber there.
Yeah, that's another reason that I am not going scuba diving.
Well, I mean, you could get the bins for a lot of things, you know, I guess. Well, you remember what's his, our cousin that had to put in that? They had to fly him. I told him.
They had to knock me out.
Well, look here. Look, this is where the window is.
Oh my gosh, no.
That would be.
I would be.
Huh?
Remember when they put me in the MRI machine?
Yeah, this is built in 1943. I think the chambers are a little bit bigger now, but they're not much more bigger.
When I was putting that MRI machine, they started that noise, and I was like, get me out of here, get me out of here.
Yeah,
I
she couldn't even do.
I couldn't even do the open.
She couldn't do the open MRI without having to get sedated because she is so claustrophobic. And really, she didn't really get this way, I don't think, for a long time.
No, I've been this way.
You developed it, maybe?
Because my dad.
Yeah, your dad holding you down.
That time I bumped him into the water.
Oh, you held her underwater because she threw him in the water at a pool. He used to hold her down underwater. This is a nice Chris Craft wooden boat. That is very beautiful. Really, you have to really stay on top of that to be restored. And this is like a taxi. It's one of those water taxis. That is a very beautiful boat.
Oh, I got to take deep breaths from being around that machine.
She got anxiety just being around it. That's weird. These are some rowboats. This is what they consider the engine room. And this is every engine, like the engines, a diesel. This is a diesel generator, a heel diesel engine. We used to have a little shrimp boat when we lived down at the coast in Orange Beach, and that shrimp boat had a Lemur engine in it, and that Lemur engine used to sip diesel. We could go, I think it was 30 or 40 miles on a gallon of diesel. It was unbelievable how well I could put 40 gallons of diesel in it and I wouldn't have to fill it up for months. These are old engines. That's an old engine. These, as they go down the road, outboards from the back of boats. That's an Elgin. They used to make watches too. Scott water, a Mercury. Wow, that's a Mercury. Chris Craft and a Hiawatha. That's different. And this is the this is actually a gasoline engine. 1910 gasoline engine. I mean, the diesel is the most efficient, reliable. They don't tend to blow up like a gasoline problem. Diesel is less as far as combustible than gas. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think I am right. That is a huge diesel engine. This came out of the Tug Arrow to 4,000 gallon fuel capacity, built in 1914. 1600 to 1800 ships, these sailing ships. These dugout canoes, they used to burn them out, these dugouts. Yeah, after a short film of the Door County and the area, and they stood up the 10-story observation tower. Warning, bees, wasps active in this area.
And there's a step down.
Watch the step down. Alright, this is this is the harbor. This is unbelievable. Shipbuilding. Shipbuilding. And a lot of tugs. I think that's the tug that I'm going to take a tour of down there. And tugs out there on the waterfront, and a Coast Guard over there. This is the ship down there, the John Purvis. And then the tugs here have pushed the big ships in, and then the Coast Guard, of course, they were the true heroes, the Coast Guard. Awesome. Over here. Those guys are amazing.
I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I am trying to convince the man behind the camera that we need to stay in this area for a couple more days.
Yeah.
We gotta go on a bike ride.
Yeah.
We can start with a little history of the boat. And it was built in 1919 for the U.S. government as a rescue salvage tug. That's kind of an all-purpose category, you know, for helping out shipping out on the ocean. It was assigned down in Bermuda for the first 3 years, and it operated out of Bermuda, and then in 1922 they decided they were going to sell it, and they sold it to a company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And So it came up here to the Great Lakes, and they sold it to Newaygo Tug Lines in Milwaukee, and they had an association with Consolidated Paper out of Wisconsin Rapids, and so they did general towing with it for a while, or off and on, I guess, and then they did Consolidated, had a lot of pulpwood on the north side of Lake Superior, and that had to get to Ashland, Wisconsin to the railroad terminal, so they did that kind of as a major occupation. The boat's 149 feet long and 27 wide, and it had a crew of 33 people on it as a coal-fired steamboat in the beginning. And everything that's red now was wood at the time. And so when the road company bought it, or got it, when he converted the diesel, he converted the deck houses to steel. But at the time, it was steam powered, and the company ran it out of based in Milwaukee, but they worked on Lake Superior. But then, the beginning of World War II, the Army decided they wanted it, and they took it, they painted it gray and put machine guns on it and sent it to Alaska. So it went out the Great Lakes, up the St. Lawrence River, and around up to the Aleutian Islands, where they pulled supply barges up and down the Aleutian Islands. At the end of the war, they gave it back. It came all the way back into Lake Superior again, and it went back into the pulpwood trade, same as it was before. And that lasted till 1956, and they sold it to the Rome Steamship Company of Sturgeon Bay. And Rome had a fleet of tugs and barges and steamships, and he had all kinds of different things at different times. Anyway, he converted it from, he also had half interest in a shipyard, right down here on the far end of the big shipyard down here. And so he had access to a lot of things most people didn't. But he converted it from steam to diesel, and that reduced the crew size from 33 to 13. And then he had put the steel deck houses on it. And so then it went back into the rescue salvage business, which he did more of it than just about anybody else. That was kind of his line of work, but he do whatever. He converted it, and he ran it doing the same kind of thing up until about 1972, and then in 72 he sold it. I shouldn't say, it wasn't quite that way. He died in 1970, and his heirs sold it in 1972, and that boat went through a succession of owners, and it ended up in Michigan, Muskegon, I guess. And they ran it for a number of years, and then they were going to scrap it because they didn't want to do the maintenance, and it needed a lot of work at the time. But his Drone's grandson was on the museum board here, and he knew those people, and he got them donated to the Sturgeon Bay Museum, and he put up a lot of money to buy the supplies, and volunteers did all the labor on it. So it took him 5 years and 27,000 hours of work to get the thing back to the drone era, and a lot of money, which came from him. So we can go aboard and show you the rest of it.
Yeah.
Would be to bring a harness from whatever was behind them to back up to it as close as they can get. Bring a harness up to the back of this boat, and then they unwind that big pull cable right there and drag it out to the back of the boat and hook onto the harness of the boat behind whatever they're hooking onto. It's hard to, you never know what they would use. The log boom would be different than a ship, of course, so. But usually they called it a bridle, and it went out to the corners of the jump, and they ended up hooking this line right to it with a big clevis. And then the operator is behind that window, that porthole, in whatever length the cable he run out, the cable is color coded. He would let that amount of cable go out, and when he saw that color going over the stern back there. Yeah. It's a good thing to trip on, you know.
Wow, look at that.
Get almost over it.
That's a heck of a winch there.
Wow.
This is the towing winch, and as I said, once he sees his marks, and the ones showing are yellow, 150 feet would be over the stern at that point when that mark hits there. If it was Lake Superior and they wanted 1400, then he'd have a red mark showing, and when he sees his mark that he's looking for, then he cranks that big hand wheel. That's a brake on the winch, so that stops the winch from rolling out. And then they throw an electric switch, and this is a electrically operated brake, and the tooth on that post breaks into, or drops into the pocket on the winch, and then that really locks it down. We can go down below and show you the rest of it. There are Fleming steers, they're arrow and deep. They are. This is the only communication with the pilot house that they got. This guy can't see what's going on up there. There's no possibility, and the captain can't run the engines from up there. If he wanted, for instance, to go ahead slow, he would move his big handle down to that position and up above, and then that moves the little pointer down to there, and then he rings a bell signal that tells him to do the same thing. And of course, it's so noisy down here. I mean, they go by bells. That's all that you can hear. And then this guy goes and does this thing with the throttle and shifts whatever he's supposed to do. And he moves his big handle down to that point, and that moves the little one up above. Now they're both in the same place in those stations, and they know it's understood and it's done. If there's confusion or something goes wrong, they have a panic system here. The red lights flash and bells ring, and then they go back and look at their telegraph and do what they're supposed to do, and then get on their way. As far as I know, there wasn't too much problems like that, but it could happen, so they got provisions made for it. And that is the control board for controlling this whole thing. No protection, whatever, other than that handrail. And it says 230 volts on those tanks, so if you happen, if you happen to get thrown into that,
rough water.
It's going to be a big hurt, to say the least. So there's no way to know exactly when. You can stop here.
That's a nice piston there.
Yeah, cylinder heads, everything imaginable. Big rods. Rod bearings and fuel injection system injectors that they can rebuild. Test out there on the bench. You can turn right at the top of the stairs.
Okay. I need some fresh air. I'm starting to not feel very good.
And of course, the marine head doesn't look like a marine head, so I don't know. an air conditioner, I'm sure. I don't know if that would be, and maybe the last people in here. Nice view though.
Yes, sir.
They had stacked bunks, I guess, down there, and that was.
Can we go down through here?
When they figure out these people work 4 hours on, 8 hours off. Really only a third of them were ever allowed to go around. A third were working with them Tuesday. More than all. A third opportunity, that was part of the reality. That's what I'm going to picture. Except last year we had an outside, so. That's the cook's cabin right there. These are some of the people that. Yeah. He still gets tours and that was similar areas. She's got one for the days and yeah. She goes crazy. Other than that, they never want to pass away. I've got 2 guys there and found her for 3 years. Yeah, and then yeah, but she's in the middle of the police way in the back. Yeah, but these are some of the pictures of some of the clothes they've been. The dining room, the rec room, everything. If you weren't working or sleeping, you're probably in here just playing cards or something, which apparently they did a lot of. And then down below the forward end, that's where the rest of the crew slept. They were from 6 on.
Right in the bow? That's got to be rough. And,
rough and noisy, and if they were breaking ice, which they did at times, you know, how do you live in a compartment that's nothing but a constant rumble?
Well, do they have beds or do they have hooks?
They had just bunks.
They had metal bunk, okay. They didn't have hooks, right?
Not that I know of, but as a steamer, nobody knows, you know, I mean, we only know what's still here, and it's stairs is too steep, they don't want people going up and down it, even the docents don't like it, so we only go down there for maintenance purposes. But this picture right in the middle there with the ship behind it, that's the last tow they ever made. And here's some pictures of their last tow. This is what those boom logs look like. This is the captain's cabin right here.
And not much difference from the other one.
No, it's pretty hard to say. I think the space limitations are what dictate all of it, you know. Captain's over here, the mates are on. You have to think about on this level, I'm talking about any level in here, they're all the same, but if you look at the bunk, there's 3 holes drilled at the outside edge, the board that goes along it. That's for pins, and then a board goes up vertically on those pins. That keeps you can get thrown out onto the floor.
Wow.
When the boat rolls.
Yeah.
I don't know if it rocks them to sleep, but
Pins to put a board up.
another head here, bathroom, and another shower behind the door. The original steering wheel was swiped off the boat sometime, and this was a reproduction somebody, one of the board members made in his garage. And then there was a dome magnifier over this. This was a gyro compass. And the sun came in one day and it went through that magnifier and it focused on the back of the steering wheel and all those burn marks in there are from the sun going through that magnifier glass. But that really is about the only high-tech piece of equipment they had. It's a gyro that takes out all of the variation from through and magnetic torque and subtle influence in the boat, you know. Other than that, they had a magnetic compass with nothing until it was taken for World War II. There wasn't a radar that just during the war. So whether they ever had it, but they didn't have it beforehand. So for the first 20 plus years, they didn't have radar, they didn't have anything. They just did this just like they did the old sailing ships, if you ever read any of the stories where they're out there taking the shots, the sextant shots on the sun, the moon, and stars, and that's how they did it. It was the only way they could do it. They must have been good at it because, you know, it covered an awful lot of ground for that kind of an operation. So. There was a guy asked me how old that radar was one day on a tour, and I said, I don't know. When they put that in, he whips out his telephone and punches in the numbers. He says, it's 1980 radar. He had more technology in his phone than they ever had on this boat. I don't know if we're supposed to blow it 3 times or
Yeah, they blow it all. I live right around the corner.
Oh.
It wakes me up every time I take my nap. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah,
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Sitting outside over there.
Thank you.